In this lesson, I would like to show you how to save your motifs, to use them to make a pattern in Adobe Illustrator. So there are the pros and cons of this technique, but you can actually use these motifs, which are clearly watercolor, with Adobe Illustrator. So this is something I experimented, so it probably can be improved, but at the moment it works. So what you need to do, you need to save, unfortunately each one of these motifs needs to be saved separately. And I usually do like this. I right click and I go into export as, and then I leave it as PNG and I will export it. I have a folder here especially for this, so I'm going to save it. We could rename it, and you will need to do this for every single one. So we'll save all of them. So export as PNG, export. I'm not going to rename all of them, and save. So I'll speed up the video and then I'll show you what to do next. In this lesson, we are going to make the pattern using Adobe Illustrator and the motifs that we saved before. So I'm going to make a file, open a file 2000 by 2000 is fine. I will leave it CMYK color for now. If you want to upload your pattern to a POD site or Spoonflower or Redbubble or whatever, I advise you to check if they want RGB or CMYK color. For now, I leave it as it is and create. And then what I do is I will import the motifs. But what you need to do is you need to embed the motifs instead of just placing them. So Ctrl-Shift-P like Paris, and then select all of them. And I will uncheck link, and this should embed the motifs. And then I will start placing them. This might be a bit big, but we can always change the size afterwards. I'm not going to image trace them, because if I don't image trace them, then they will retain this watercolor look. Oops, that was way too big. Okay. So let's see, I'm going to maybe resize some of these. So we can't make them too big, but we can make them smaller. If you make them too big, they will start to lose their resolution. They will start to pixelate a little bit because we're not image tracing them. So this is also huge. All right. So we see as we go, as we make the pattern, if we need to make them a little bit smaller. And we can start building the pattern. So let's see. They're probably still a little bit big for this artboard, so I will make some of them a bit smaller. Maybe turn it a little bit. And there are drawbacks to this, of course, because these are PNG, so they are transparent, but if something is underneath, like let's see, for example, this butterfly is underneath, see, you can't click on it directly, you have to sort of go behind it. So it's not, it has its drawbacks as well, but I like that I can use this watercolor in all its painterly style, and I can use Illustrator to make the pattern. So maybe I'll leave it like this. And to move the motifs to be, crossing the boundaries, I do this little trick, Control K, and it says 1000 pixel already here, so I'll leave it as it is, but you can type here the amount that you need. And this is 2000 pixel. So 1000 pixel, we bring this to the center. And then what I do is I press Alt on your keyboard and the down arrow. So it makes a copy, release Alt and press the down arrow. And I do this instead of 2000 and bring it straight to the other side, because it will be helpful when I do the half drop. So let's see. And I'll show you what I mean. I might do this one directional, we'll see. So this needs to cross here. So I think they are still a little bit too big. We'll see. I don't like all these white flowers all in the same place, and this needs to repeat down here, so this flower here can't go there. I might actually replace this one with this one. Okay, let's try it. So we'll get rid of these, because now we need to select these ones, and I will group them, Control G. And what I do is I press the Alt key and then the right arrow, and then release the Alt key and the top arrow, and then click on this again. So that's why it's useful to group them, because you don't have to try and select them with these ones in the way. So press the Alt key and the right arrow, and then release Alt key and down arrow. And now I will ungroup all of them. So right click and ungroup, or Shift Control G. Okay. And I will get rid of the extra motifs. And here as well. And there are some adjustments to make. So that one there, for example, is not good. And we don't need that one. And these ones here, because it was they were a little bit too big, they were going over the middle line here. So now we need to copy these motifs on this side, on the right side, and there will be some clashing, but we can adjust this, because I can always move this one, for example, like that. I will probably make it smaller, so I get rid of this for now. And then these here need to be copied down. And then this one needs to be copied down. So even if it's a half drop, you still need to have the same motifs. What's on the right needs to be on the left. What's on the top needs to be at the bottom. Now let's have a look. So I'm going to try and make this a little bit nicer. In here there is some clashing, so what I do is I think I will delete this one. All right, it's not perfect, far from it, but just to show you how to make the pattern, it will do. So let's get rid of that. And I could fiddle with this all day, but let me show you how to do this. So now I will give it the background. So M for Milan, and we do, it's 2000 by 2000. Use this to put them, like center it on the artboard. And if they're not there, you can always go to Windows and Align, and Control Shift and left bracket, square bracket, sends it to the back. And then I have a palette which I like to use. So you just click on the folder here and it will appear here. And I'm gonna give it a nice dark color. Yeah, this one is better. So the flowers stand out, especially the white one. And then what I do is I'll click on the background, Control C, Control B for back. And while it's still selected, you get rid of the fill and the stroke if it has any. It shouldn't, because the top square shouldn't have any stroke, otherwise the pattern won't work. And then let's see if it's working. We select everything and we make the pattern. And this only works if these are embedded. If they're not embedded, it won't work. So let's make a nice big square and see if the pattern works. All right, so here's the pattern. I mean, as I was saying, it could be better. Some of these things are clashing here. See, is this one here, for example, that needs, I didn't realize this one was so close. So if we can move it a little bit, but we can make it maybe smaller. So I'm going to redo the pattern with the adjustment that I did. So this area here, it's a little bit better, but it could be better even still. But this was only to show you how to make the pattern with these assets saved from Photoshop. And you make the pattern with Illustrator, but you keep the watercolor style. The important thing is to embed your pattern. So I can see here there's these, I keep seeing all these things to change, but yeah, so you embed your motifs that you saved from Photoshop, and you make the pattern as you would normally. The problem with this is that you can't really change the color of your motifs that easily. You can change the background. So I'm going to ungroup this. You can change the color of the background easily, but you can't really change the color of your motifs, because the recolor artwork tool is not going to work with something that is not image traced, unfortunately. So this is why I was saying there are some drawbacks with this. But if you want to, I mean, I like the Rubeckia's this color. If you want to change the color, it's a bit of a lengthy process, but you can go back to your Photoshop, change the color there, and then remake the pattern. Unfortunately, this is probably the only way to do it. But if you have some flowers like this, which are, you know, quite close to the real colors of the flowers, you probably don't want to really change the color anyway. So this is another way to do your pattern, and I showed you in Illustrator how to do the pattern because at least for me, I find it so much easier to build a pattern in Illustrator than in Photoshop. So if you want, once you have your motifs, you can just save them like I showed you, and then just do the pattern this way.